Hey guys, today we're driving the 2022 Nissan Leaf. So, no changes for the 22 model year except for price. This is now the cheapest electric vehicle you can buy. It starts at around 28 grand, and this SL Plus, the top trim, is $38,000. And that doesn't include federal tax credits, any state incentives, or dealership discounts. So a pretty affordable electric option. I've been living with this Leaf all week, and I've actually really enjoyed it as a daily driver, a local runabout vehicle, and it kind of makes for the perfect second electric car. It's not necessarily an option that would be feasible for road trips or a lot of driving. The charging curve on it is not amazing, and this CHAdeMO connector is slowly being phased out by a lot of the charge stations. They're not building any more of these, at least from what I've read. Though, that doesn't mean it's not a worthy option in the market. It's been fantastic to live with for a few reasons this week, and let's get into that in this video. So the first thing I like about the Leaf is it's a very normal looking car. There's nothing too offensive about its design. On the exterior, it looks pretty good. They launched this second generation of Leaf in 2017. It came out for the 2018 model year. It just looks like a hatchback. And it's actually pretty spacious inside too. We've got a ton of cargo space in the rear trunk area, a very low loading floor. Unfortunately, there's no spare tire. Maybe someday manufacturers will stop their war on spare tires, but for now, you could probably squeeze one in here on a pinch. We also have the Bose amplifier back here. This has the Bose Premium Audio. We'll test that later. Here's your charge cable and all the charging paraphernalia, adapters, stuff like that. And underneath here is just the floor of the vehicle. The seats fold down, and you get a decent amount of room in the back seat. It's not the most spacious area. You can see they don't fold completely flat, but you can still fit quite a bit of stuff in here compared to a lot of other electric vehicles. Legroom in the back seat is pretty good. I'm 5'10". This is set to my driving position. We have kind of stadium seating back here where I can see over the driver's seat. Headroom is okay. I've got about an inch above my head at 5'10", and we don't really have much of a center armrest, and the center area in the footwell is pretty much taken up by these cup holders and this little grippy shelf here. We've got a couple USB Type A ports, and that's about it. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. These seats are super comfortable. Nissan zero gravity seats always deliver, and these seats in the Leaf are no exception. I like this little Alcantara insert. We have blue stitching around them. They look pretty sharp. Let's start this Leaf up and show you what it looks like in the front seat. So this SL Plus has a 226 mile range. The base model has about a 151 mile range. It has a 40 kilowatt hour battery. This has a 62 kilowatt hour battery. It's rated for, I think, 216 horsepower. It's front wheel drive, pretty torquey, pretty quick. Feels a lot faster than 216 horsepower, to be honest, just because of that instant throttle response, instant power. The only thing that's really kind of funky and weird about this interior is just this shifter. Kind of similar to what the Prius shifter has been like. It's just kind of a rotating ball. The rest of it in here, though, is pretty standard car. There's no big, silly iPad, Tesla-looking screen. Nissan's infotainment, even though it's looking a little bit dated and not the most attractive display, I think it works pretty well. It's very responsive. There's not a lot of features or settings hidden within the screen. Everything has a button. Everything has a switch. You do get a digital display over here to the left where there's a lot of different displays, battery temperature, battery capacity. You can see your music, navigation, efficiency, and a bunch of other information. But that's pretty much it. Everything that you want to access has a physical control, and I really appreciate that. We have a heated steering wheel, ProPilot Assist, which works really well on the highway. We'll test that later. And a couple different drive modes. This has what Nissan calls the E-pedal, which is basically just one pedal driving. You let off the throttle, the car slows down to a complete stop, and it slows down at a pretty good rate where you don't really have to touch the brake in this, which is kind of nice. You can turn that on or off. It'll save whether you've turned it on or off the next time you start up the vehicle. There's also an eco mode for slightly dulled throttle response. And you might have heard there, you get a little bonging noise when you put this in reverse. Nice for pedestrians around you. We also get heated seats. I mentioned the heated steering wheel and this HVAC system. A little bit more of an old school HVAC for an EV. You actually have to select whether you want heat or AC, and then you can just kind of ramp up and down your fan speed for however much cooling or heating you want in your Nissan Leaf. There's also an auto mode, but this week I've found that just kind of manually setting your climate control works the best. We have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto as standard now in this Leaf. Works pretty well. The Bose sound system is okay. It's decent, nothing super special, but at this price point, I'm not going to complain. Let's pop the hood. No frunk, unfortunately. We've got all sorts of other things going on up here. A lot of high voltage wires. Big electric motor for the front wheel drive system. We have 17-inch wheels with a good amount of sidewall. Eco-focus tires definitely don't help with performance or fun to drive factor, but they're comfy, they're quiet, and I'm sure they're pretty efficient. We have the same old key from Nissan that they've used for ages. You can pop the charge port, lock, and unlock. All right, let's take this thing for a drive. See what it's like on the road. Disable the parking brake. You've got a reverse camera, a little bit low res, but it's pretty wide angle, and the 360 camera works really well. They've done a nice job stitching everything together. So right now I have e-pedal driving engaged, which means that all I have to do to slow down is just let off the throttle. And below speeds of 20 miles an hour or thereabouts, you get a little bit of a electric noise emitted through a speaker underneath the car. So pedestrians can hear you, people know that there's something driving near them, and I kind of like that. It's not that spooky of a sound, it sounds okay. I'm glad that manufacturers are starting to add a little bit of noise to these electric cars. Before we get started with today's drive, I would like to thank our sponsor for this video, Phantom Wallet. This is my daily wallet. It's a well-engineered product that I really have enjoyed using the last year or so. This is the Phantom R. It's their higher-end model. You can bolt on a number of different attachments to the back. This is the key holder attachment, and I really like this because it kind of combines everything that I need out of my wallet. I can hold my keys, I can have a money clip on the other side that I bolt on, hold some cash, and I can fan out all my cards like this. There are a number of different finishes, color choices, card capacities, pretty much customizable to anything that you need. Check them out at phantomwallet.com and use the code TOPHER for 10% off your order. For the amount of power that goes through the front wheels, it puts it down pretty well. There's a little bit of torque steer when you have some angle on the steering, but for the most part, it's a smooth, seamless, instant power delivery, and it is satisfying to kind of have that instant torque out of this electric powertrain. Now, as the battery warms up, we will get more regenerative braking, pretty typical for all EVs. I do appreciate how quiet this interior has been this week. No rattles, no shakes, no weird noises. Very well bolted together, very well buttoned together in this Nissan Leaf. Show you guys what passing power looks like here. Even up to highway speeds, this Leaf is actually pretty quick. It gets up and goes. I love my forward visibility, super low windshield here, pretty big greenhouse. Good side visibility out of my mirrors and side windows. That rear C-pillar has a bit of a blind spot, but we do get blind spot monitoring in this, which is great. While we're on the highway here, let's quickly talk about ProPilot Assist. So that is Nissan's lane centering system and radar adaptive cruise control system. You can turn on the steering assist with a button right there. It'll beep when it's engaged, which is kind of nice to know that it is engaged. It's like, okay, the car's taking over. If you keep your hands on the wheel, it'll stay enabled for a long time. If you take your hands off the wheel, it'll prompt you every 10 seconds or so. It's a great system, keeps you really well centered between the lines. It works great on the highway. It blends speed differentials nicely, passes slower cars pretty quickly. However, on back roads, it can be a little bit touchy, a little bit sensitive. If a car is in another lane, slowing down, it'll also slow down even though that car is not in front of you. So not perfect, but it does the job. We're slowing down now with more regenerative braking off throttle. This is a really well-tuned and nicely calibrated one-pedal drive system. I definitely commend Nissan on that. It's one of the better ones that I've driven. I think I like it more than the Mustang Mach-E's system. I think it feels about as natural to drive and as smooth as Tesla's system. Turn on some AC here, getting a little bit toasty. One nice thing with electric car climate control, everything comes on instantly, though you can see an immediate range drop when you turn anything on. That's okay though. We have 226 miles to play with on a full charge. Sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the driving scenarios that you're in. Under 50 miles an hour, it's pretty easy to get the traction control light to flash in this Nissan Leaf. Handling, it wallows around. There's quite a bit of body roll, quite a bit of tire squeal. It still has a decent level of mechanical grip, but this is definitely not a sporty driving experience. You put some stickier tires on here, that would probably make the biggest difference. I do like the torque at highway speeds though. A little bit more about cruise control. You can skip 5-mile-an-hour increments really easily. Just hold the button or single press for 1-mile-an-hour changes. You can set your following distance, change that very quickly with this button right here. Occasionally it will make some abrupt braking changes in speed if a car cuts you off or gets in front of you. So something to watch out for, but for the most part this week, this has been a really nice system to live with. I've really enjoyed using this ProPilot Assist for a lot of my daily driving. Seems to work great. Let's talk about what this car is like to drive without the E-pedal, without the one-pedal driving system. So you turn E-pedal off, you get a little bit less throttle linearity. You can coast pretty easily. All right, so you give it some beans, you let off, and it'll just coast for a long time. The brake pedal is pretty mushy though. It doesn't have the best feel, but it is linear and you can get used to just using this as a traditional car, accelerator and brake. For those who don't really want to use one-pedal driving or aren't familiar with that, it's a nice car to drive. It's fine. It feels just fine. Maybe not as natural as a Tesla, but definitely better than some of its competitors. I will say though, once you get used to one-pedal driving, it's kind of hard to go back. It's so seamless, it's so easy to drive a car like this, and kind of fun too. Planning out your braking zones, using all that regenerative energy to slow you down, I think it makes you a more efficient driver. So do I have any complaints about this Nissan Leaf? Well, I have one minor gripe. Whenever you do engage ProPilot Assist, it'll show you this screen on the little display, and it'll make it really difficult to get back to whatever else you were looking at. Let's say you want to see your power meter or your charge time and battery temperature. As soon as you enable ProPilot Assist and do your thing, it's going to take you back to that screen, and whatever you were looking at before is gone. So kind of a gripe. I wish that would just happen in the background and it wouldn't completely interrupt what you were looking at before, but it's not like there's anything in this display that's super important or super crucial to be looking at any given time. Oh yeah. All right, so how can we sum up this 2022 Nissan Leaf? I really like the way this car drives. It's super comfortable. It's one of the better riding electric vehicles on the market. They've gotten the suspension tuning right. It's really well calibrated for comfort. And I like the way this car acts and reacts to throttle inputs. It's very linear. The one pedal driving works fantastic. You can also quickly change between drive modes. You can have this creep forward at a light like a traditional car, or you can have it completely come to a stop when you let off the throttle. It's super nice having that ability to just kind of change the character of the car and change the drive modes and tailor it to what you want out of your electric vehicle driving experience. Super comfortable seats, very user-friendly interface. The tech here is enough. It gives you Apple CarPlay and a decent sound system, not the best, but I would like to see Nissan improve the Bose and maybe the next generation Leaf a little bit better. Bose has been coming out with some better sound systems, and this is definitely on the lower end of what I've heard from them recently. But otherwise, this is a really nice car to live with. Probably not a good option for road trips and long journeys, but for around town as a second vehicle for 99% of your driving, this will do it, and it'll do it really well. You can charge this up every night in your garage, about 7 hours on 240, about 30 hours on 120 from 0% to a full charge. Personally, I have 240 installed in my garage, and it's just been super simple with this. Plug it in for a couple hours, and after 30 minutes, an hour of driving, I've got it charged up again. I like the visibility. I like the looks. This is just an unassuming normal car that happens to be electric, and I think a lot of buyers are maybe looking for something that's just a normal car. You can get into this car and learn how to drive it and be comfortable with all the controls pretty much immediately, and I think there's something to be said about that. Power is great in this 62 kilowatt hour battery pack. This SL Plus is plenty quick. I haven't driven any of the base models, but they do take a little bit of a hit in acceleration. I think this range of at or around 200 miles is a real sweet spot for most drivers. Again, you'll know what is right for you, but I don't know, I think this Nissan Leaf hits some really nice points. I love how quiet the cabin is. There's not a lot of noise, vibration, harshness, not a lot of wind noise. No rattles in this thing all week. Granted, it's brand new and only has a few miles on it. But 883 miles to be exact. But that is one thing that a lot of electric vehicles are lacking, and they have a lot of rattles and vibrations, and it's really exacerbated without the white noise of an engine going on behind the scenes. Other than that, I think the price changes for the 22 model year make this an even more compelling option and a more competitive vehicle in the segment. All right, so hopefully that gives you guys a pretty good idea of what it's been like to drive and live with this Nissan Leaf this week. Let's walk you around this one more time, and we will wrap things up with a Bose sound system test. Like I said earlier, not the most impressive Bose sound system that I've listened to in a Nissan product. Leaves a little bit wanting, but for the price point, you can't complain too much.